concept of food sovereignty came because even if it is mentioned here and there, the cultural appropriateness of food was not discussed in food security. You eat food, food is available, whether that food is culturally appropriate or not was not the concern of food security. And also ownership of the means of production or distribution, and also ownership of the food itself was not discussed very well. And also the food that is produced, or how the food is produced, is not concerned, or where the food is produced. The food comes to your table, and we brought you healthy and food. It's accessible, it's available, so eat it, kind of thing. But much more importantly, if you put the lens of political economy, it's very much important that ownership or political relationships in that food system is discussed. Only 5 companies own over 60% of seed, the production of seed, the distribution of seed, to an increasing extent in developing countries. Whatever food is produced, you have to use the seeds from these companies. So 5 companies. An equal number or less companies control over 75% of agricultural inputs. The distribution of food is also very few names you can mention. In the storage of food, very few names. So that's very dangerous for food security. It has a health implication, it's an environmental implication, it has a security implication for each of the countries, and it has also a right implication, the kind of food that you want to eat. It has food is a source of life. Food is at the center of life. If somebody controls your food, they control you. That's basically why the concept of food sovereignty is important. I think 2 recent examples demonstrate why the concept of food sovereignty is important. One is COVID. If you remember, during COVID time, there were vaccination. Vaccination was developed in the northern countries, but the northern countries were not willing to give those vaccinations to Africa. People were talking about vaccination colonization even. So when the push becomes a shove, they say, everybody's for itself, or for himself, or themselves. So we were exposed. We didn't die as a fly, as they were predicting, but it was a dangerous moment. They had vaccination which could vaccinate their population 2 or 3 times, but only that time, only 1% of Africa was vaccinated. So that's a very good example. And there was a lot of food distribution disruptions during COVID. So even the urban population was in a great danger of starvation that time. So in that context, if people were sovereign in their food, if countries were sovereign, then it would have been easier for us to manage ourselves, to adapt to this kind of situation, to pandemic situation. And the prediction is that there will be much more pandemics. And in that kind of context, you have to be food sovereign. Other recent example is a war between Russia and Ukraine. What happened? The price of gas, the price of even vegetable oil, the price of wheat as a basic product, the price of also artificial fertilizer rose up. And the price of food skyrocketed almost all African countries. It's all over the world, but the other world can adapt somehow because they have that resilience built into their food system. But in our case, it's difficult. A lot of people are starving now. So if we are food sovereign, if we could produce our food, if we don't rely on artificial fertilizers or agrochemicals, including pesticides, if we have our own food distribution, that mechanism, then we could survive. So the concept of food sovereignty has become the concept of or the central issue for survival now. Food sovereignty for Africa means food self-sufficiency and food control, the control of our destiny.